Ozymandias. I met a traveller from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculpture, well, those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretched far away. So here, what we can see when we zoom straight into the title, what we can see is the word Ozy comes from the Greek word to breathe, and mandias comes from the Greek word that means to rule. So when you put these two together, that then leads to the idea that as long as he breathes, he is ruling. So as long as he lives, he is in fact in charge. So what we can then zoom into is the first sentence where it says, I met a traveller from an antique land. So what we can see here in the annotations is that the I is a first-person recount. This is his attempt to distance himself from directly criticising the monarchy. And the idea that the land is antique gives the idea that it's old, but it is somewhat valuable, and it may have held some significance at some point in time. So then, to move on through the poem, what we can see is it says, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone. Here we can understand that vast is relating to the mass size. It's saying that this statue is massive. And by saying vast and trunkless legs of stone, it's indicating to us that it's a broken statue. It's ruined, it's incomplete, it's negative. It's a bad thing. So he also then goes on to say, stand in the desert. A desert is a very isolated setting. And throughout this section of the poem, there is mass sibilance used throughout, as you may be able to see. So this sibilance connotes to an unpleasant air, as it usually is related with the hissing sound of a snake. Then moving on, we can see the continued sibilance in half-sunk shattered visage lies, where visage means something with no face. So this is just those trunkless legs of stone. There is no face, there is no upper body to the statue. It is purely just those trunkless legs of stone. So then moving on to where it says, and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. This indicates to us that there is an unpleasant look on his face, and the alliteration indicates that his tone is hard. It's reflecting his anger, his arrogance, and his tyranny in general. It then goes on to compare these trunkless legs of stone to this beautiful sculpture. By saying that its sculptor well those passions red, it's saying that it must have been a very skillful artist who carved these statue and just ensured that it would stay there strong. But moving on, it says, the hand that mocked them. Mocked leads to the meaning of ridicule, being presented as a joke, pathetic, not taken seriously to any account. And so then the line underneath where it says, and the heart that fed. This is a synecdoche, which means that this imagery is showing that his rule is disingenuous or insincere. So a synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part represents the whole. Moving down, we then move on to the biblical allusion of King of Kings. This makes reference to Jesus and how Ozymandias is power-hungry and has committed the sin of hubris, which is excessive pride, and he's placing himself above God, which is a major sin. However, we know that Jesus may have been seen as heroic, whereas Ozymandias is clearly not. He then goes on to say, "Look, on my works ye mighty in despair," where look is quite imperative and demanding, and it's given that he believes he is important. He believes he is the most important of all. And then to say, "Ye mighty in despair," he's warning the other kings and armies, and he's trying to make sure they fear him. He wants to be the most powerful. He wants people to fear him. He doesn't want anyone to get along with him. The way he sees it, he is independent, he is on top, he is egotistical, he is the most important, most significant. He is just the best of the best. No one can be better. He's got the most power. Nothing can change that. So what we can then see is on the next line, it says, "Nothing besides remains, round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare." So the fact that we've got the word nothing and decay in there indicate that everything's breaking down. It's all going to move to nothing. And the irony here is that power is temporary and the statue has been destroyed. Which then leads us on to the next point, where the last line reads, "The lone and level sands stretch far away." This shows us that the desert is outliving the statue. Time and nature are way more powerful, and art is unable to immortalize power. That nature will always be more powerful than humanity, and no matter what Ozymandias does, he will soon decay, much like this statue has. His power will dissipate. There will be no more of his power. So what we can also see by looking into this poem is that there is a cyclical structure. As you can see with the pink highlighters on desert and sands, this poem both starts and ends with desert imagery. This once again emphasises the sheer power that is possessed by nature. Just quickly going back to the name, Ozymandias. This makes reference to an Egyptian pharaoh, which parallels to King George III. And it also indicates tyranny.